Hey, my dear Brightsiders. I've got a nice riddle challenge for you. I know you've been waiting. Set everything you've been doing aside. Your detective skills are needed. Long ago, an evil witch kidnapped 3 married women and turned them into rose bushes. One of the women, who had children, begged the witch to let her see her family, and the witch agreed. She took the woman to her home for one night and turned her back into a rose bush the next morning. The witch had no idea the woman's husband had followed her back because he wanted to save his wife. He looked at 3 identical rose bushes and suddenly realized which one was his wife. How? The rose bush his wife had been turned into didn't have any night dew on the leaves. A woman called the police to report that her grandmother's ring had been stolen. When a detective came to her house, she saw shards of broken glass on the ground and dirty footprints. But instead of looking for the thief, she arrested the woman who had made the call. Why? If someone had indeed broken into the house, the shards of glass would have been inside the house, not outside. As for the window, it was broken from the inside, most likely to stage the robbery. A man called his wife from the office and said he would be home by 8. He arrived home at 2 minutes past 8, but his wife was very angry because of his late arrival. Why? The wife thought the man would be home by 8 p.m., but he came home at 8:02 a.m. A small shop in New York is called 7 Bells, but there are 8 bells hanging outside. The store owner can easily correct this mistake, but chooses not to. Why? Initially, this was indeed just a mistake. But over time, the store owner noticed that people often came inside to point out the inconsistency, and this started to increase his sales. A queen had a bowl of golden apples, which were her most treasured possession. One day, one of the apples went missing.
Oh no!
She gathered all the members of the court in the throne room and told them she knew how to find the thief. Each of them had to touch a rusty pot with a rooster inside while the lights were off. The rooster would crow when the criminal touched the pot. Strangely, the rooster didn't crow throughout the whole procedure. Despite this, the queen knew who had stolen the apple. How did she figure it out? By touching the pot, the members of the court ended up with rust on their hands. But the thief was too scared to touch the pot in case the rooster crowed, so they didn't have any rust on their hands. A rich man named James Leonard was attacked in his house on a Sunday afternoon. These people were in the house at that time: the maid, the cook, the butler, the gardener, and James's wife. They gave the following statements. The maid said, "I was laying the table." The cook told the police, "I was cooking breakfast." The butler said, "I was polishing silverware and dishes." The gardener added, "I was planting tomato seeds." And the wife said, "I was reading a book." So, who attacked Mr. Leonard? It was the cook. You don't cook breakfast in the afternoon? Dennis is a talented architect. He's designed a unique skyscraper, and the construction works were about to start. His boss asked the guy to show around a group of specialists from a competitor company. The only condition was that they weren't allowed to take any photos. Dennis did as he was told, but when the group was going to leave, he asked the security to detain one man. The architect claimed he had been taking photos during the tour around the site. How did he understand it? The man was carrying an umbrella. He kept pointing it at different objects, asking lots of questions, but the sky was cloudless. What did he need the umbrella for? A camera must be hidden there. 2 men are going to fill their watering cans with water from the river. Who will bring more water? The spout of the older man's watering can is situated lower than the spout of the other man's can, and the level of water can't be higher than the spout. It means the younger man will bring more water. Mrs. Smith claims that her neighbor, Mrs. Miller, has stolen her laundry. The woman says she hung the laundry in her backyard at 10 a.m. And when she went out of the house 2 hours later, she saw Mrs. Miller putting it in her bag. "I didn't do this. It's a lie," the other woman replied angrily. The detective investigating this case asks Mrs. Smith to go to the police station for trying to slander her neighbor. How has he figured out that Mrs. Smith is lying? It's freezing outside and there's snow on the roofs. In 2 hours, damp laundry would be so frozen it'd be impossible to fold it and put it in a bag. Look at this group of people and try to figure out who the man's wife is. It's the woman in purple. Both she and the biker are wearing matching wedding rings. Detective Morris decided to have a meal at a cafe, but as he came closer, he saw a crying lady. "I was going to cross the road when some woman grabbed my purse and disappeared. I noticed her entering this cafe. Can you help me get my things back?" The detective entered the cafe. "Ah, that's my purse, right between those two women, but I can't recognize the one who took it. I didn't have enough time to look at her attentively." Morris didn't need much time to figure out which woman was guilty. It's the one on the right. The woman on the left has her left arm in a cast. If she had taken the purse, she'd have put it on the right side of herself. Joan took part in an experiment testing her logical thinking and analytical skills. The girl was locked in a small room. The door was supposed to open automatically once she figured out the riddle written on a piece of paper. Which principle is this sequence based on? 85491763320. The numbers are lined up based on the alphabetical order of the first and second letters of their names. 8, 5, 4, 9, and so on. Hannah called her friend, Detective Evelyn Marks, and asked her to come as soon as possible. While the woman was away walking with her dog, someone got into her house and stole her laptop. Hannah was sure it was her neighbor Jeremy. Evelyn went to question the man, but he wasn't at home. She decided to wait for him in her car since it was raining. Soon, she saw Jeremy opening his entrance door. "I went fishing early in the morning. Don't you see that I've just come back?" But the detective didn't believe Jeremy and took him to the police station. Why? The guy is wearing white sneakers, but it's been raining since early morning. If he was out fishing, how can his shoes look so clean? Detective Taylor was chasing a dangerous criminal. Suddenly, the man entered a hospital, but there must be hundreds of rooms there. Luckily, it was raining, and the criminal left footprints on the floor. The detective followed them and got into a small room. There were 3 people there. All of them were covered in bandages from head to toe. But one of them was a fake patient. Who? It's the man in the middle. He doesn't have a medical chart next to his bed. Look at these pretty fish. One of them is different from the rest. Which one is it? This one in the middle. Its eyes are slightly bigger than those of the others. On a cold winter day, a man was standing in front of someone's house. He didn't move or say anything until the spring, and the owner didn't mind. Who was this man? It was a snowman. During one of his experiments, a crazy scientist gives a group of people 2 pills, one safe and one poisoned, with some water to wash it down. They can choose one of the pills, so their chances are 50-50. Strangely, all people get poisoned and have to be rushed to a hospital. Can they all be so unlucky? All the pills were okay. The poison was in the water. The following riddles will put your attention and quick thinking to the test. Look at this rebus riddle. Mill and lion. Can you figure out what it means? It's 1 in a million. Now we've got this image. It's filled with room. Can you find the odd word? Yep, there's a boom among all those rooms. James is carrying a barrel that weighs 60 pounds. What can the guy add to it to make it weigh 40 pounds? All James needs to add is a hole. Find the number that doesn't belong here. Right you are. 280 is different from all these 208s. Can you figure out what's wrong in this picture? Roses don't grow on the seafloor. The same picture, but the mistake is different this time. Spiders don't live underwater. But then, where did this spider web come from? How can you pop a balloon with a knife without it bursting or losing air in the process? Deflate the balloon first. Only after that, stick the knife through it. How can you take one from 19 and get 20? You can easily do it if you use Roman numerals. See for yourself. 14 minus I equals sign x sec. Adam added 6 to 11 and got 5. And it was the correct answer. How is it possible? It's correct if we talk about time. It's 11 a.m. If you add 6 hours, it'll be 5 p.m. It took a witch 8 years to finish digging the deepest well in the world. Every next year, she managed to double its depth. How many years did it take the well to reach half of its maximum depth? Seven years. If the witch doubled the well's depth every year, it had to be half its final depth the year before it was completed. You need to get into your rival's computer, but it's password protected. The only hint you have is a note you found hidden under the keyboard. 1 mouse, 3 books, 2 boards, 1 knight, 4 balls, 2 lighters, 1 girl, 1 hall, 3 watches. Can you figure out what the password is? It's moonlight. The number in front of each word refers to the corresponding letter of this word. A treasure hunter finds a chest filled with gold and jewelry in a cave on a distant island. There are 3 keys next to the chest: red, blue, and gold. Only one of them can open the chest, and the treasure hunter has only one attempt to choose the right key. On the wall, he sees a bizarre inscription: TGK, Ho, Ili, Den. Can it help him pick the correct key? The man should choose the gold key. If he rearranges the letters in the inscription, he'll get the golden key. 3 men were swimming in the sea. The weather was getting worse, and a Coast Guard asked them to leave the water. But when they got back to the shore, only 2 of the men had wet hair. Why? The 3rd man was bald.
Had long suspected that Mr. Hall was a smuggler, transporting forbidden things on his yacht. That day, they knew for sure the cargo they were looking for was on his vessel. Several police officers came with a search warrant to the marina where Mr. Hall's yacht was parked. They examined every nook and cranny of the yacht, but didn't find what they were looking for. Mr. Hall was sneering while seeing them off. Suddenly, the youngest police officer exclaimed, "I know where the cargo is!" What did he understand? The cargo could only be underwater. Wrapped in a protective cover, it was tied to the anchor. Look at these guys carefully. One of them is not living alone. Who is it? It's the man on the right. He's got 2 toothbrushes. Austin, a rich businessman, brought very important documents to his office. But he had a meeting and needed to leave for several hours. Austin asked his secretary to be on the lookout for anything suspicious. His competitors could try to break into his office to look at the documents. When he came back, his secretary told Austin everything had been quiet. But when the man looked around, he realized someone had been inside his office. The secretary eventually admitted having fallen asleep while Austin was away. How did the businessman understand someone had visited his office? The globe on his desk is now turned in the opposite direction. William, a successful businessman, was having dinner at an expensive restaurant. At one point, he went outside to make an important call. When he returned, his case with money and documents was gone. The thief could only be another customer. When the police arrived, they questioned everyone who was in the restaurant. Karen said she had been writing a new chapter of her book. Paul said he had been waiting in a line to get to the bathroom. Donna had already paid for her coffee and was putting on her coat. And Robert was having a video call with his girlfriend. It didn't take detectives long to figure out who the thief was. Do you know it? The criminal is Paul. Besides him, there were only 4 other visitors at the restaurant, and they were all busy. How could there be any line for the bathroom? The police got informed that one of the most wanted criminals, Carl Walker, was going to arrive in the country. According to this information, the man was going to come by plane. Unfortunately, the police knew very little about him. He was short, wearing glasses, and traveling under a false name. Detective Adams went to the airport. He detained 4 people who fit the description. They were Mr. Lewis, Mr. Relcaw, Mr. Taylor, and Mr. Wilson. Look at these men carefully and try to figure out who the criminal is. It's Mr. Relcaw. His last name is actually the criminal's last name, Walker, but with its letters reversed. A detective is looking for an important witness. Without them, she won't be able to solve a complicated case. The only thing she knows is that the witness is left-handed. Look at these people and help the detective choose the person she needs. It's the waitress. She's holding the tray with her right hand and serving people with her left dominant hand. Look at these princesses and try to figure out which of them is the fake one. It's the princess on the right. The tiaras of the princess on the left and the one in the middle have a reflective shine to them. You can see they are made of precious metals. But the ice princess's tiara doesn't shine. It's made of plastic. A businessman arrived at his office after a long trip. He discovered that some important documents had disappeared from his desk. He immediately called the police, and a detective arrived shortly after. After interviewing all the workers, he had a list with 3 suspects on it. They were Emma, the accountant, Sophia, the receptionist, and James, the sales manager. But all of these people claimed they hadn't been inside the businessman's office. It didn't take the detective long to figure out who was lying. Do you have any ideas? The thief is James. Both women wear high heels in the office, but the footprints on the floor are obviously left by a pair of sneakers. An elderly lady called the police. She told them someone had sneaked into her house while she had been asleep. The intruder took away the money she kept hidden in her kitchen cupboard. The woman was sure it was one of her neighbors. The police visited all the neighbors, but each of them claimed they had spent the entire day at home. Look at their houses and try to figure out who the thief is. Rick is lying. He wasn't at home. His car was parked near the house already after the snow had built up on the driveway. Look at these people carefully. Who does this dog belong to? The dog's owner is the guy in the middle. He's the only one who isn't trying to pet the animal. Can you figure out how many watermelons there are in this picture? Five. Gloria failed her math test. Luckily, her professor was an understanding woman. She offered a deal. If the girl cracked 3 riddles, she'd get a good mark. Of course, Gloria agreed. The first task was to figure out the answer to the equation. Can you do the same? The answer is 232. Gloria didn't need much time to solve it and got the next puzzle. Harry loves different kinds of bets. Every time he meets his friends, he has a new one. Last weekend, he suggested a challenge. He said that he could place a cup in the middle of a room and easily crawl into it. Nobody believed that he could do that, so Harry's friends were sure they would win. Still, Harry won the bet. How did he do that? He said he could place a cup in a room and crawl into it. He didn't mention whether it was a cup or a room, though. So he crawled into a room and won the bet. Anna left a shopping list for her husband, Jeff. There were only 2 items, but she decided to prank Jeff a bit. So she didn't write exactly what he needed to buy, but wrote 2 riddles. The first item in her list was full of holes, but still could hold water. And the second item had 4 fingers and a thumb, but it wasn't alive. What was Jeff supposed to buy? Jeff needed to grab a sponge and a pair of gloves. Andrew went hiking to the mountains, but all of a sudden, an earthquake started. He fell through a narrow tunnel into a large pit where zombies live. Luckily, Andrew has 3 different elixirs that could help him. The first elixir can make him grow in size, the second elixir can make him fly, and the third elixir can make him invisible. He only can drink 1 elixir. Which one should he choose? He doesn't need to grow in size because he won't make it through the tunnel if he does. The zombies living in the pit can hear and smell, so they'll find him even if he's invisible. He should choose the ability to fly. It'll help him get back. A notorious bad guy caught William, a wealthy businessman, and locked him in a room. "I won't let you out until you double the money I leave for you." And the criminal put $3,000 on the table. By the time he returned, William had already doubled the money, but he hadn't left the room or talked to anyone. How did he do that? He put the money in front of the mirror. Two friends, Eric and Angus, decided to play. On the table, there was a plate with 11 green apples and 7 red apples. Eric was blindfolded, and he needed to grab some apples without seeing them. How many apples should he take to make sure he has 2 apples of the same color? The total quantity of apples on the plate doesn't matter. The main thing is that there are only 2 colors. So if Eric takes 3 apples, there will be at least 2 apples of the same color for sure. 3 students, Amanda, Lisa, and Mark, were having a party the night before an important exam, so they weren't ready for it. The following day, they called the professor and asked him to reschedule the exam. They said they got a flat tire on their way to the university, which was a lie. The professor agreed to reschedule the exam, but he said that if he finds out they were lying, all of them will get an F. The students agreed. Some days later, when Amanda, Lisa, and Mark came to the university to pass the exam, the professor gave them an exam sheet with 1 question only. The students were sitting far away from each other so that they couldn't cheat. When the professor collected the sheets, all the students got an F. What question was it? The professor asked the students which tire got flat. They weren't ready for it, and all of them had different answers. Ashley invited friends and cooked a delicious dinner. When everybody was at the table, she suddenly realized one of her friends didn't like the meal. Who was it? It's Chris. He secretly shared his pasta with Ashley's dog. The police got an anonymous letter about an upcoming heist in one of the museums. To stop it from happening, they need to know the month the heist is planned for. The letter had a secret code. The police couldn't crack it, so they brought it to the detective. What month is the heist planned for? It's September. Star stands for S, pear stands for P, and rain stands for R. There were only 3 letters in the code, but September is the only month that has the letters S, P, and R in its name. There are 20 floors in the apartment building. The higher the floor is, the more people live there. Which floor does the elevator go to most often? It's the first floor. The residents of all floors go down to the first floor. The other day, Mary was rummaging around her grandmother's attic when she accidentally stumbled upon 5 short chains, each made of 4 silver links. She thought it would be great if she combined them all into one big chain of 20 links. When she went back to town, she brought those tiny chains to a jeweler. He told her it would cost her $5 for every silver link that he would have to break and then reseal. How much will the chain cost? Mary could do that for $25 if she told the jeweler to break a link in each chain. However, she asked the jeweler to break all 4 links in one chain and use them to attach the other chains together, which cost her $20. Stephanie got hungry and wanted to boil a 2-minute egg. She had a 3-minute hourglass timer, a 4-minute hourglass timer, and a 5-minute hourglass timer. How can she cook the egg for only 2 minutes? When Stephanie sees the water boiling, she should turn the 3-minute timer and the 5-minute timer over. When the 3-minute timer runs out, she needs to put the egg in the boiling water. She'll have 2 minutes left on the 5-minute hourglass timer.
David worked at a construction site. Once, someone attacked him, and the unconscious man was taken to a hospital. Police officers who arrived to investigate the case had 3 suspects who also worked at the construction site: Alex, Ryan, and John. Alex said, "I was putting all towels on the roof when the accident happened." Ryan confessed that he'd been sleeping under the tree, and John claimed that he'd been laying bricks at that time. Can you figure out who's lying? Alex was the one to hurt David. The building has no roof yet, so he couldn't be putting tiles up there. You've bought a cute little rabbit at a pet store. The animal can breed every 2 months, and every time it will deliver 5 babies. How many rabbits will you have in a year? You'll have just 1 rabbit. If you want to have little bunnies, you have to buy 2 rabbits. Look at these people attentively. Who is a mer person? Pay attention to every little detail. It's the guy on the right. Look, his hands are webbed. Allison won the main prize of $1 million on a game show. But when the shooting was over, it turned out that the host of the show had disappeared, together with the prize. The police managed to log into the computer in his office. They saw that the host had sent this message to his girlfriend. It looked like the host had told his girlfriend where he was going. The police went to the airport, but which flight was the host going to catch? Can you figure it out? Now let's see, the first 2 letters of Atlas are AT. If we take 3 letters from the word land, it'll leave us with LAN. And the 2 first letters of tattoo are TA. Together, these letters make up the word Atlanta. Hurry to the gate, officers! Jack got lost in the woods. Suddenly, he saw a castle. The man rushed there and was greeted by the owner of the castle.
You have to answer just 1 question. If you win, I'll show you the way out of the forest. But if you lose, you'll never leave my castle.
Jack agreed. The owner asked,
There are 4 mirrors on the wall. One of them reflects fire-spitting dragon Niren. The second, beautiful mermaid Laura. In the 3rd mirror, you can see a terrifying vampire Sam. And in the 4th, unicorn David. You have to figure out which reflection isn't real, and fast!
The reflection of vampire Sam isn't real. Vampires can't be reflected in mirrors. A businessman arrived at his office after a long trip and discovered that some important documents had disappeared from his desk. He immediately called the police, and a detective arrived shortly after. After interviewing all the workers, he had a list with 3 suspects on it. They were Emma, the accountant, Sophia, the receptionist, and James, a sales manager. But each of these people claimed that they hadn't even been inside the businessman's office. Still, it didn't take long until the detective figured out who was lying. Can you do the same? The thief is James. Both women wear high heels in the office, but the footprints on the floor are obviously left by sneakers. You throw me when you need me and pick me up when you don't need me. Can you figure out what I am? Right you are. I'm an anchor. How can you increase 66 by 1.5 if you aren't allowed to make any mathematical operations? Hurry up and crack this riddle. Just turn 66 upside down. It was Mr. and Mrs. Smith's wedding anniversary, and Mrs. Smith was going to put on diamond earrings her husband had presented her for their wedding. But when she opened her jewelry box, she saw that the earrings weren't there. She called her daughters, Dora and Laura. "I've told you so many times not to touch my things. Who took my jewelry this time?" Dora exclaimed, I haven't touched your jewelry box. Laura also denied taking her mom's stuff. I don't even wear earrings. Can you figure out which girl is lying? It was Laura who stole the earrings. Her mom didn't specify which piece of jewelry was missing.
The next day, Justin was questioning Mary, a suspect in a tricky smuggling case. The girl refused to talk. At some moment, she shouted, "Right now, I'd drown my phone in this cup filled with coffee and you'll never find out the truth." But Justin was totally unbothered by her threat. Why? The cup was filled with coffee beans. They would do no harm to the gadget. A shoe shiner was arrested and taken to the police station where Justin worked. The man was shouting he was an honest person. He cleaned people's shoes for free. His clients paid him of their own will. But Justin soon realized which trick the shoe shiner used. The man cleaned one shoe for free. Nobody wanted to look untidy in just one clean shoe, and paid him for shining the other one. Once, Justin's boss called his wife and told her he'd come back home at 8 o'clock. They had no plans for the evening whatsoever. The man was at home almost on time, at 5 minutes past 8. But his wife was furious. The boss was confused. When he came to work the next day, he asked Justin to explain to him why his wife had been so angry. Justin told his boss, "Well, your wife expected you to come home at 8 p.m., but you came at 8 in the morning." Justin was sent to patrol the streets. While walking, he saw a weird picture. A man went out of a house with a bucket of water, shouted, and poured this water on the sidewalk. It took Justin some time to figure out why he had done it. The man had been planning to wash his car, but while he was away, it got stolen. Once, a bank was robbed. The police suspected that one of the bank's security guards had helped the criminals, and Justin had to question 3 of them. The first security guard told him he had heard some shouting and rushed there, but by the time he arrived, the criminals had already been gone. The second security guard explained he had been drinking a cup of coffee at that moment and hadn't even heard anything. And the third guard said that he had run after the thieves, but he had to lace his boot. Without a second thought, he crouched near an emergency exit. At that very moment, the door opened and hit him on the head. When he came back, the criminals had been gone. Justin immediately understood which guard was guilty. Who was it? It was the third security guard. All emergency doors open outwards for safety reasons. Justin's next suspect was a young woman. The guy hadn't seen her yet, but he had her photo. When he was looking at this picture, he felt something was wrong, but couldn't figure out what exactly. Then, all of a sudden, it dawned on him. What did Justin realize? The girl was inside the house, but the door was blocked from the outside. How did she get in and out of the house? Through the second-floor window? Unlikely. A notorious criminal escaped from a 150-foot tower. Someone had managed to get him a pair of scissors and a rope. Justin found out that the rope was just 75 feet long, and the criminal had cut it in the middle. Now, the future detective needs to understand how it helped the man get away. The criminal indeed cut the rope in the middle, but not across. He made the cut along the rope, tied its two parts together, and got down to the ground without any problems. A new case for Justin. Martin bought a car in September, and now, just a month later, it's stolen. All four suspects are Martin's friends. The crime happened at 10 p.m. on Wednesday. At that time, Alan was playing badminton in the park. Natalie was driving home from work. Roy took his cat for a walk, and Rose was doing some grocery shopping. Who was behind the car theft? Alan. It was October. At 10 p.m., it would be too dark to play badminton. An important document is missing, and Justin has to find it before his boss comes back from his vacation. The guy had found out only 3 people could take the document. At the moment when the papers disappeared, Randy was in his office, analyzing a new case. Johnny was taking a shower before his regular gym workout, and Kayla was at her firearms training. Who took the document? It was Johnny. Who takes a shower before a workout? Airport authorities suspected a gold smuggler was going to fly out from their airport. Justin was sent there to help. The suspect was stopped at the customs. But try as they might, security officers couldn't find anything suspicious in his suitcase, just some personal belongings. They had to let the man go. But once he picked up his suitcase and started to walk away, Justin realized the man did have the gold. How did he understand it? There were just a few things in the suitcase, meaning the man had to carry it with ease. But he used both his hands to handle it. It means there must be something heavy hidden inside. Justin finished his working day and decided to drop by his favorite coffee shop. But while he was ordering his cappuccino, someone took his wallet. He only saw a man's retreating figure. Justin ran after him, but the man was already driving away in a black car. Our future detective jumped in his own car and started to follow him. He couldn't drive too fast since it was raining. In 10 minutes, the black car disappeared around the corner. When Justin got there, he saw 3 similar black cars parked in front of the apartment building. It didn't take him long to understand which car belonged to the thief. How did he find it out if he didn't see the man's license? The ground under the first and third cars is dry, but beneath the second car it's wet. It means its owner has just arrived. The owner of an ice cream parlor filed a theft report. Someone stole all the money from the register. He was only gone for like 2 minutes. Detective Callum showed up 20 minutes later. There were 3 people inside. Ainsley said she had been talking on the phone with her friend. She hadn't seen anything. Rhett said he just arrived a couple of minutes ago. Joshua said he wasn't really paying attention. He didn't notice anything. So, can you figure out who's lying? Who stole the money? Rhett said he had just arrived, but his ice cream's already melted. Liar. Phoenix wanted to get her dad the best birthday present ever, but she didn't know what he wanted. She decided to break into his laptop to see what he had saved in his online shopping cart. One problem, the laptop required a password, and Phoenix didn't know it. Luckily, there was a note next to it. She sent a picture of it to her friend, Detective Callum. He solved it right away. Can you? The note doesn't make sense because it's upside down. Flip it over and you'll see a sequence of numbers 88, 89, 90, 91. The numbers before it are 86 and 87. So the password is 8687. Detective Callum traveled to a small neighboring city where young women were being kidnapped every day. 4 had already gone missing. They all lived on the same street. Their names were Ava, Bella, Celeste, and Daphne. There were only 3 women left on the street: Ava, Riley, and Georgia. Callum had to act fast. Who would be the next target? The women are getting kidnapped in alphabetical order: A, B, C, D. The next target will be Ava. Mr. Coleman's mansion was robbed while he was on vacation. He immediately called Detective Callum. Everyone who had been to the house got interrogated. Sydney, his sister, said she'd gone to the house a couple of times to find some papers on Mr. Coleman's desk. Samantha, the gardener, said she'd come every week to water the plants. Asher, the cleaner, said he'd come every Friday to clean the house. Callum found all 3 of their fingerprints on Mr. Coleman's desk. He now knew exactly who the robber was. Who? It was Samantha, the gardener. Sydney and Asher had a reason to touch the desk, but Samantha wasn't even supposed to be in Mr. Coleman's office. There aren't any plants in there. A rich woman was robbed on her private yacht during a ferocious storm. A witness said they saw Kai watching the woman right before she was robbed. Kai denied everything and said he was in his cabin at the time, writing a letter to his wife. Detective Callum asked to see the letter. 5 seconds after Kai handed it to him, Detective Callum put him in handcuffs. Why? Kai said he wrote the letter during the storm. There's no way his writing could be this neat when the entire yacht was swaying around like crazy. Logan, a young businessman, was poisoned in his house. Detective Callum was on the scene. Pretty soon he had 3 suspects. Logan's girlfriend, Michaela. She said she hadn't seen him that day because she was busy at work. Next, there was his business partner, Rob. Rob said they'd had an argument and they both got pretty angry, but he hadn't poisoned Logan. The last suspect was Blair, the driver. She said she wouldn't know how to poison someone even if she wanted to. Who should Detective Callum arrest? Look, there's fresh lipstick on Logan's shirt. It matches Michaela's. But she said she hadn't seen him that day. Suspicious. Eloise found her friend Fleur poisoned in her room. She called Callum and told him she was walking past Fleur's house and noticed her light was on. She texted her, but Fleur didn't respond. She got really worried, so she broke a window, climbed in, and found her on the floor. But Detective Callum didn't believe her. He immediately arrested her for poisoning her friend. Why? Eloise said she broke a window to get in. If that was true, the broken glass should be inside the room, but it wasn't. Eloise had to cover her tracks, so she broke the glass later from the inside. A college student was robbed during a flag presentation. Detective Callum arrived to investigate the case and interrogated several suspects. Kennedy said that she was in the bathroom at the time. Gavin said he'd noticed that the Japanese flag was hanging upside down, so he'd gone over to fix it. Eleanor said that the student who was robbed was her best friend. She would never do that. Who's guilty? It's Gavin. He said that the Japanese flag was hanging upside down, but that flag looks the same either way. He's lying. Someone stole a diamond necklace at a private VIP party. The police followed the robber into a boutique store. There were 3 customers and they didn't know who the robber was, so they called Detective Callum. Adele said she'd never even been to a VIP party. Those things are for wealthy and famous people. Joseph said he'd never even heard about the party. Florence said she'd been in the shop for the last half hour, trying to find that perfect accessory. Who should Detective Callum arrest? Adele. She's wearing a gold bracelet and earrings. Seems like she was just at a pretty fancy event. Maybe a VIP party? Once, Adam agreed to take part in a popular TV show. He had to crack logic puzzles and solve detective riddles to get $1 million. If only he knew at that moment where this decision would lead him. When the guy arrived at the venue, a staff member put a blindfold over his eyes. After that, Adam was taken someplace and left alone. After waiting in silence for a couple of minutes, the guy pulls the blindfold off. He's in a rather large room. There's nothing there except 4 doors. The guy feels something's wrong, but he can't grasp what exactly. And suddenly, he realizes the ceiling is going down. He needs to get out of the room and fast. He examines the doors more closely. Aha! They all have notes that describe what's behind each of them. The first one, a lake full of piranhas. The second, a room where an avalanche will happen once he sets foot inside. The third, high voltage wires hanging above a wet floor. The fourth is a 15th floor room with only one window. Adam knows he needs to decide fast. He opens one door and jumps inside a moment before the ceiling crashes down. Luckily, it's a safe room. Which one is it? The guy picked room number 3. The wires don't touch the water on the floor, and there's some space left between them and the ground. It means it's safe to crawl under the wires. Adam makes it to the next room and finds a note with a task on it. A coin is put into an empty bottle, which is then plugged with a cork. How can you remove the coin without breaking the bottle or pulling the cork out? Adam doesn't need much time to get the coin out. What does he do? Adam pushes the cork into the bottle and shakes the coin out. His next task is to figure out who a criminal is. An elderly lady was walking in the park when a stranger grabbed her bag and hurried away. The woman told the police the man was wearing a coat, a hat, and a pair of glasses. He also had a mustache. The police officers ran in the direction the lady showed them. A bit further, they found the hat, coat, and glasses lying on the ground. They figured out the criminal could hide in the nearby cafe. Adam has a photo of 4 men, all of them cafe visitors. He needs to understand who took the bag from the elderly woman. He immediately points at one man, and his answer is correct. Which man is it? It can't be the man in a hat or the one wearing a coat. The criminal also got rid of his glasses. It means the man wanted by the police is the one on the right. He has a small wound on his upper lip. Must have got rid of his fake mustache in a hurry. The riddle is solved and Adam can go further. Soon he finds out he has to act as a detective again. A famous artist nearly finished his new painting, but he had to leave for France. It was an urgent matter, and it kept the man in Paris for a week. When he returned, he discovered his work had been spoiled. Someone had spilled black paint all over it. And it happened recently because the paint was still fresh. The artist was furious. He invited his maid, gardener, and maintenance worker and questioned them. He said, "Someone spoiled my painting while I was away. Do you know anything about it?" "I never enter your studio without your permission," the maid said. The maintenance worker added, "We don't use black paint for any repairs in the house. I don't know who could do that." Gardener got angry. "I've been working for you for 15 years. Do you think I could do this to you?" All of them sounded sincere, but then who spoiled the painting? Being a smart guy, Adam realizes right away the one to blame is the maintenance worker. The artist never mentioned the way the painting was spoiled. Since the answer is correct, Adam can continue. He enters a narrow hall. There, on a small table, there's a glass of orange juice. It seems to be half full, but Adam has to figure out if it's really so. How can he do it without using any measuring tools or pouring any juice out of the glass? Adam tilts the glass until the juice is just touching the rim. The bottom of the glass isn't visible, so the guy concludes the glass is more than half full. If a part of the bottom was visible, it would mean the glass was less than half full. The next riddle Adam has to crack goes like this. A man is thinking about how fast his life is flying by. The day before yesterday, I was 34, and the next year, I'll be 37. The man hasn't made any mistakes in his calculations. Can you guess what day his birthday is? Adam spends 20 minutes trying to figure this puzzle out and succeeds. What is his answer? The man's birthday is on December 31st. He's thinking about it on January 1st. The day before his birthday, he was 34. The next day, he turned 35. A new year started the next day, and that year he's going to turn 36. And he will be 37 the following year. The riddle is solved, and Adam is allowed to move to the next room. In the middle, there's a large TV screen. Suddenly, it switches on. Adam sees two girls who are going down to a dark basement. "No, no, no," the guy whispers. "That's how all horror movies start." And right he is. The door slams behind the girls' backs. It's so unexpected that Adam jumps in his seat. The girls scream. Since the power's out, one of them switches on the flashlight on her phone. They see 3 doors. Something's moving behind the first one. "Who's there?" Adam can hear one girl whispering. Her voice is trembling. It turns out that the first door hides, oh no, several hungry zombies. A big fire's raging behind the second door. And if the girls open the third door, they'll see exposed live electrical wires. And then a voice tells Adam, "You have to say which door they should choose. If you make a mistake, they won't survive." No pressure whatsoever. Luckily, Adam is smart enough to help the girls. Which door does he pick? The third door. The power's out, and the wires are totally harmless.